The Devil in the Flesh was the title of a book that was the only gift my father gave me for the Epiphany of 1993. To me, who my eyes still clouded with sleep, woke up with that strange volume lined in red with a silver lettering, my sarcastic parent explained. I was passing through a flea market and I came across this beautiful novel. Since you read a lot, it also seemed to me that the title suited you. Assuming that my father has never even opened a book in his life, I can say with certainty that he always admired only the external appearance of these precious century-old treasures of knowledge. I mean the books, obviously. Unexpected luck for my erudition as a boy was the fact that he collected it precisely to satisfy a fairly bland love for the golden filigree, the silver squiggles, the embossed letters that embellished the outer cardboard, the one that was shown on the shelf. It isn't so clear why, out of the blue, he saw me as the devil. With all the due respect to the novel by Raymond Rodriguez, whose work I read, which later proved unsuitable for an 11-year-old boy, the explanation was immediately offered to me by the donor himself, without adding too much to my healthy understanding of the circumstances. Already in those days I was beginning to suffer from those hysterical crises that upset my puberty and that transformed me from the taciturn and submissive child so comfortable for my mother to the nervous, cynical, grumpy boy who saw himself rejected by society to any level and context. "You are a devil; you should be exorcised," my father yelled in his moments of lucidity. In the other moments I seem to have mentioned it, he merely insulted me or beat me without too much consideration of apology. What could I ever do, think, or conclude? In those days the outside world didn't seem so preferable to the nightmare I lived within the walls of my home. Between a play friend who threatened to kill me, and a father who assured me that I was an incarnation of the evil one, and a mother who subconsciously blamed me for the failure of her life, and again also a grandmother who considered me a distilled um, a failure as a boy, I didn't really know who to turn to. Maybe that's what I've missed most in the last 30 years. A positive hero who wasn't a book or cartoon. A real hero who showed me that after all, there are also good people in the world. People with a modicum of sensitivity, with just enough pity or intelligence to be able to say to a child, "Life is not what you imagine. There are even better places. Happy days." Instead, here is my father shaking his head and saying scandalized to his mother, how is to his mother, to my grandmother, how is it possible that such a thing is my son? I never took it too much for these words, spoken and repeated throughout my adolescence. I don't think I have ever considered that man a real father. I dried up year after year, and this was probably my salvation. Who knows, maybe a father's violence is more justifiable than a mother's. A father is genetically predisposed to the material sustenance of his family, while his woman strengthens him spiritually and gives him the link that keeps him connected and harmonious. A father can also be forgiven for reckless moments in which he allows himself the luxury of venting his frustrations against a defenseless child. After the age of 11, I began to hate my body. I saw myself change slowly, inexorably. I have already mentioned that I was obese. Now it was time to lose weight, to escape the dicks of my other classmates. Also, my hope was that Dad, seeing me a thinner, would stop calling me a pig and fat. I began to throw tantrums at the table, to say that the portions of pasta and bread were excessive, to always leave the customary macaron or handful of spaghetti on the plate. My father only liked to disturb his peaceful TV viewing during lunch. He let my mother scold me and then resignedly take away the plate with the leftovers, but he never spared his sharp, offensive remarks. There are fathers who criticize their child by saying, "Shame on you, you don't leave food on your plate. Think of the children who don't have enough food," and immediately run to your room to reflect, to think about it. Then there are fathers like mine, whose invitation to education at the table was reduced to a tight-lipped insult. "You piece of shit, you don't swallow, and then you go to fuck off. If you don't swallow and then you go to fuck off, I swear I'll scar you." I have thought many times that if I had had the love of a mother to support me, I could have become a boy, well tempered against all kinds of furies and violence in the big world. With a father like this, the mess is quick to come. Unfortunately, being alone against such an ogre doesn't help, especially as psychological violence was often combined with physical violence. One day my father, after I got up from the table to go study, followed me and waited for me to reach my room. Then, without saying anything, he turned me around and started punching and slapping me up, as if I were a punching bag. I don't think was the methodical his was the methodical sublimated violence of the fathers of the past, who threw bats at their disrespectful children to teach them to be in the world. There was genuine hatred in my father's eyes, a kind of blind, self-contained rage, which in the end revealed itself as a blind and irrational fury. In those moments I feared it was going to kill me. In his eyes, as long as I could see them, because then I was unable to distinguish him after he had knocked the glasses off my face with yet another slap. I read an animalistic fury that reminded me of the look of my mother, murder one, when he tried to break my neck all those years ago. When she tried to break my neck all those years before. I found no other way to defend myself than that of collapsing to the ground with my hands pressed against my face. He waited to have he waited to vent his fury. Then I think for 5 or 10 minutes. Then he breathed a sigh of relief and walked away holding his hands perhaps sore. I was crying bitterly. I remember screaming all the time, and maybe they had me in the street too. Really strange that soon after, probably on the alert behind the door, my very kind mother came to help me. "Poor thing, what have you done? Did you fall down?" After checking that I had not suffered any obvious wounds to the face, I had no bruises, maybe a few scratches from uh, fracture, a few scratches, the simple ones, not bleeding. The carry-on. My mother walked away, probably satisfied that for once it had not touched my father didn't touch her. What more can I say? That was probably the episode that marked the beginning of my murderous fantasies against my father. I fantasized for years about the best way to eliminate him from my life, so that he would suffer at least as much as he had done with me. Perhaps it was precisely the paradoxical situation in which I found myself, which saved him and me. At a little over the 11, at 11 years, when I was 11, I was facing so many antagonists that I eliminated one, even if only in my imagination. I had too many others left for the situation to have been able to really improve because of it. Let's see you in the next video. Thank you for listening to me.